Hey everyone, it's Will from Nittany Mortgage. I'm here with Brian Rutter from Keller Williams Advantage Realty. In this edition of the Agent Spotlight, Brian and I are going to be covering a number of subjects, but the primary take home is how to craft that perfect offer to get accepted. So Brian, thanks for being here. I appreciate you.
It's a pleasure. Let's go
joining
get
us.
some
Yep,
houses, right?
absolutely.
That's the hard part for everybody.
It's a wild market, and here in Happy Valley, we've got a lot of competition, even in the fall, and we want to make sure our clients are getting that best offer on the table so that they can get accepted and get them into homes.
Just as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Nothing to it.
Like I said, we're going to be talking about a number of subjects, but the first and foremost thing that I wanted to discuss is getting set up with a local realtor, someone that knows the market and is going to be able to guide you through these processes and how to make those good offers.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled to do that. And it's funny because one of the first things that I tell people when they come to me first is we need to get our team together, which includes our lender.
Yes.
Because there's so many moving parts that ultimately go into buying a home. And what happens this day and age is a lot of people just schedule a tour on Zillow. They go see it. They're like, I want this house, and have never done it before. So then we've got to figure it out from there. So doing the front end preparation is probably the biggest thing that any home buyer can do to get themselves ready. So, I mean, again, you're flipping it over here, which I appreciate, and saying get with a realtor, but I'm going to say the most critical part for the average person buying a home is they're not buying it with cash on their first purchase that they're ever doing. So they're going to have to do this instrument of financing, which is typically through a mortgage with a lender like Will. So we typically have our clients do that first and foremost. And the reason is then we know what we're working with, because people are hopping online. They're looking at a mortgage calculator. They think that they know what goes into it, but they haven't checked into the HOA. They don't know what their insurance looks like. They haven't really wrapped their head around what the tax implications are. And there's just a plethora of different factors that come into it. And that's when Will does his part. So we kind of get them scrubbed with Will, and then they come back and go, perfect. We can afford up to $500,000, but it turns out the payment we want is at $300,000. Let's go shop for some homes.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting set up with a realtor and a lender such as myself, that really is helpful for setting an appropriate budget, knowing how much you can spend, and then at that point, dial in on those specific homes in that price range.
Yeah.
And that's where the fun begins.
That is where the fun begins. That's the part that we typically talk about next, which at a very basic level, I was just with a client this morning and I said, hey, this is the fun part. Don't worry about all the other details, the mortgage, anything else. Go into this property and figure out if this could be home, if they're looking for a primary residence, of course. And that's really what you do. You schedule, you see houses, you know what you want. And what I tell anybody who's working with me as a buyer is, I'm not going to pressure you into anything. You've got to figure out if you want this to be your house. The only time that I apply pressure is when somebody says, this is the one. And that's when I go, it's time to get moving. Now we need to hustle because
Showtime.
yeah, and as we've all seen it, regardless if a house has been on the market for 2 days, or I just had a property that had been on the market for 3 months, and that's when they got multiple offers. It's crazy. So once you know that you want the house, don't let somebody else get in the way. That's when we start working and we go get with a lender. We run a detailed cost estimate for that specific property based around the offer that we're going to put together, and we can talk about that. But that's the point in time where we gotta get moving and get aggressive about what we want to do. So no pressure to buy a house, but once you're ready to get that house, then we got to get moving.
That speaks to one of the next points I wanted to make is that A, speed is key, but B, doing that early legwork helps us with that speed and efficiency when it's time to make that offer. So getting with a lender such as myself, getting that pre-approval done early, that way any sort of speed bumps we may encounter, we're hitting those early and we have time to be flexible and figure things out versus coming into it last minute when everyone's hair is on fire and you find that perfect home and we run into a snag, whether that's credit issues, whether that's debt to income. The earlier we know about those potential issues, the more primed we are when it's time to make that offer. So getting in early, getting prepared, having documents ready such as W-2s, tax returns, pay stubs, bank statements, those things that we look for, especially early on. That way we know exactly what we're working with and get you into that perfect home.
And I keep out of all of that stuff in the process. It's like, get with Will. I mean, we just had a great example, the two of us in the last 24 hours of somebody that said, hey, if you haven't done this yet, this is time to do it. And I mean, they were all over it. They had every document that he asked for. They're ready to go. I mean, these people can write an offer, and they're probably halfway through the actual qualification process, not just a pre-approval.
Right.
So then we're really ready to get aggressive. And also what then allows us to do is make a better offer, because it's not as simple as what it sounds like. People think, here's a house, it's on the market, it's $300,000. We'll offer them $300,000 and call it a day. We might have to write more than $300,000. The inspections come into play. These people might need to stay there for 3 months. There could be 100 different factors that influence the offer that we're going to ultimately help them write. But I need to bounce that off of you to figure out if they can do it. Do they have any money? When's their start date? We're taking all of these moving pieces into consideration when we're trying to write that like bulletproof offer, and then applying for what works for our client. But most of all, and especially when it's competitive, we're not writing an offer based on what you want. We're trying to satisfy the seller's needs. We have these people who we want to give them something that they say yes to. So we're working in the back of the house with whatever parameters we have available for the buyers. But really what's going to entice the sellers to go, okay, this is yours.
The seller wants to feel safe and secure when they accept your offer. And again, working with a team like Brian and I, that is just all the help that we can give you. Really just helps you and the sellers jive and make sure everyone's happy at the end of the day and knows that things are going to go through smoothly and on time.
Because they always happen smoothly and on time. There's so many moving parts, and I think that's you kind of have to constantly be adjusting and navigating that with both your client, your agent, your title company, everybody else, another agent on the other end, a home inspector, an appraiser. There's so many pieces coming at every single transaction. And so we're trying to keep it nice and steady for our clients along the way while giving them the firm direction that they need to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brian and I both have some nifty tools in our belt when it comes to crafting those offers. From my side of things, there are any number of tricks, not tricks, but efforts we can make in order to make those offers look more attractive to a seller. Things such as appraisal contingencies, where you're able to waive the right to have that property appraised, and that's one less fly in the ointment, if you will, that could potentially create issues. Doing things such as escalation clauses, where we pre-approve you up to a maximum purchase price of $350,000, even though you're only offering $300,000, and you can escalate your offer to beat out other buyers up to X amount of dollars. That's something Brian and I have done many times, and is a really nice way to get that offer accepted. I don't know if you have any tricks that you like to use to help those offers.
It really comes down to communication. I mean, I just got with an agent the other day where she had told me on the front end that they've already denied other offers. We put together a letter. We did a little bit of backstory. We found out who these people were. It really appealed to my people who were buying. Next thing you know, we've got an offer. And the last comment the agent made to me after we got our wonderful offer accepted was that letter meant the world to these sellers. It's like, who knew? And again, people get so caught up in thinking that the dollar amount is the only thing that matters in an offer, and it's not. The rest of the terms, and a lot of times, depending on when you look at the factors, those people have been in that house for 40 years. They didn't have to sell. They wanted to feel good about who they sold it to. So we look at items like that. We can waive inspection contingencies, which is tricky. You have to be very prepared and sign a waiver and let us know that you're comfortable waiving inspections, or maybe you bring a contractor in during our showings. Lots of ways to work through that. Inspection deductibles to say, hey, we're not going to nitpick all these little details. We just want to make sure that this house isn't going to fall into the ground, but we'll waive the first, you name it, $5,000 worth of repairs that come up. We'll put it beautifully of just saying, we want the seller to feel at ease with the offer that we have. Right. So from financing to inspections, because what happens in all of those, buyers are really well protected in the sale of real property. So both in that first 15 days, give or take, of inspections, for anything, that buyer can terminate the contract and say, yep, I don't like that light switch, I'm out. And if anything happens to their financing, same concept. If all of a sudden we have a mortgage contingency written in an offer and Will says, hey, listen, it turns out she didn't get her job in time, they're not approved, they get out of it. And so the seller is really exposed. So
Right.
the less exposure we can offer to the seller, the stronger buyer offer we're making.
They're left holding the bag, and they've got to go back to the drawing board
Yep.
as far as trying to find new buyers for that property. And they're
the
just
worst.
not nearly as protected as buyers, which is great for our buyers that they are so protected. But again, that just speaks to the point. We want to make sure that the seller is comfortable and at ease.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I think that's just about everything I have. I don't know if you had anything for the good of the order, but I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been
of course.
a pleasure, and look forward to working with many buyers in the future.
We got a bunch.
And if anyone has questions or anything like that, my contact information will be at the end of this, as will Brian's, and we'll make sure that we've got more content down the road.
I've got something I'm going to add into this
item,
mix here along the way, which is making sure that when you do that work on the front end with Will, and you're in a position where you already have the pre-approval, make sure you work with a lender who knows what's happening as it's going on. Believe it or not, Will is allowed to do stuff outside of his working hours, which are 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a time he might be out at a camp or hunting where, Will's always willing to work. But you need to make sure that when you're working with your clients that your lender's in the mix who knows what's going on, because if we're going to be writing an offer this weekend, hey, Will, let's get ahead of it. Let's run some cost estimates, et cetera, on the front end. So that's probably the biggest endorsement I can give to, Will personally, and what I would say is an absolute requirement when somebody comes to me with a lender I've never heard of. It's like, text them on Saturday morning and see if they respond back to you that you're going to see a house. And if they don't, that's not our person to work with. So
absolutely.
You're always on it, buddy.
Availability is key because, again, we never know when that offer needs to get submitted, and whether that's Saturday morning, Sunday night, or Thursday evening, whatever it happens to be, as long as as long as everyone's on the same page, that is key. So, it takes a village, and, as long as everyone's committed to making things go smoothly at whatever pace that we decide, then, that's key.
Perfect.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, buddy.
Brian, thanks for joining
us.
us.
Buy some houses.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks.